Hi, welcome to Lighting Design. This is a class that I taught online asynchronously during fall of 2020. This is a class that contains a lot of technical information, but being that it was online, I felt that it was even more important than usual to make it very visually engaging. So you'll see as I show you in different parts of the online content that even in my announcements and things like that, I try to kind of have little visually interesting, even if they're little cartoons, also within the course content itself. There are a lot of really interesting images of lighting design examples and case studies. So going into the content here, you'll see that I actually have 57 pieces of course content. A class like this, it's important to kind of, especially when teaching online, it's important to teach it in a broken down kind of step-by-step approach. So I used a lighting layers methodology for this class this semester, and once they learned the basics of how to apply this, they could do so in their final project. So because it's online, visuals are very important, and that also means visuals of me. So you'll notice a lot of videos within the course content here. I feel like it's important for them to see my face. And instead of just giving them written information about a project, for example, or about an assignment, I often made a video talking about it in a lot more detail. And in that way, I think I built a lot more connection with the students. So I had the course divided into basically 5 different units. The first 3 units of the semester really talked about the nuts and bolts of lighting design, from the concepts, the qualities of light, all the technical information. And then as we moved into Unit 4, that was where the students did a case study project. And Unit 5 was a final project that was done in conjunction with their commercial design studio. So throughout the course content, I always tried to provide interesting examples of lighting design applications. And as I talked about different concepts in lectures, I tried to share very visually engaging imagery. I also tried to pepper in some fun activities and fun kind of videos just to illustrate some basic concepts. Like here we're talking about how incandescent lamps or bulbs can get very hot, and we had a lot of discussion about the phasing out of incandescent technology. So I got to show them a funny retro commercial for an Easy Bake Oven, which is powered by incandescent bulbs, and a cake is actually cooked with that. That sort of drove home some of these ideas for them, and also kind of was a fun little break. Another fun thing we did was we actually had a lamp scavenger hunt where they went around their own homes or apartments and found 2 different examples, and then I divided the group into virtual tables. They tried to stump the group and try to come up with something that they wouldn't be able to identify. This actually was a lot of fun, and the groups kind of discussed it, and all in all, they were very successful in doing some of these technical identification exercises. One of the other things we did once we got into talking about the required light levels for different tasks, I had the students download some different free light meter apps on their own personal phones. And we did some exercises where they measured the light levels at different places in their own house, like their work area, kitchen, etc. And we compared it to some design standards to determine if it seemed like it fit the bill. The students actually really enjoyed this kind of activity, and it really confirmed to them what they had suspected in many cases, that their work area was not bright enough or things like this. Throughout the semester, we also incorporated some different news stories about energy efficiency and some of the laws and how they were changing. And so it was interesting to incorporate this into the class, as some of this was actually happening in real time. I also had the students do some independent research. I gave them a kind of starter list of lighting manufacturer websites, and they began with those and they expanded it, and they created Pinterest boards with different types of fixtures that met different criteria and fell into different categories. They kind of saved these Pinterest boards and really built on them throughout the semester, and ended up using a lot of what they found in this research in their final project. After we completed talking about all the technical information of the semester, I had them do a field documentation project. They actually went out into a space, and everybody was assigned different categories that they could sign up for. Some of the students had jobs, and so they used those spaces maybe that they worked to do a lighting analysis, which was the assignment, and others used spaces that they frequented fairly frequently, like Publix or Kroger, the basic retail stores. One student did Starbucks, for example. The students that didn't feel comfortable going into a space during a pandemic, I had virtual walkthroughs of some different spaces in New York that I gave them, and they could use those for their project. And those projects were quite successful also. They basically made a video with the photos of the case study and broke it down to analyze the success of the project. And finally, the end of the semester was a final project that the students developed in conjunction with the commercial design studio that they were taking at the same time. This was a law firm in downtown Atlanta. We actually visited 2 different spaces with 2 different real estate management companies. They chose one of the spaces and they developed a law firm in that space. Part of their grade for the final project was just staying on schedule. So they had deadlines that they had to meet and certain drawings that they had to submit by certain dates. So part of their final grade was just the staying on schedule and the submission of those drawings by the deadlines. The final project was a fairly comprehensive project involving space planning, an analysis of circulation, lighting layers, selection of lighting fixtures, modeling of the lighting effects, and the students also had a choice to build their own custom luminaire, which they designed and built a prototype of and documented that. With all of their assignments and projects over the semester, I utilized a system of fairly detailed rubrics for grading and provided a lot of extra feedback, especially since we were not meeting in person. I also utilized a system of anonymous surveys. This was how I was able to get what I felt was real-time and fairly honest feedback with how the course was going and what the course content was like, what things might need to be improved, the workload, and any other suggestions that anybody had. In doing so, this really helped me modify and craft the course, and as the semester progressed, and I was able to make real-time adjustments if needed. The final grade for the class was determined by a combination of exams, which were administered online, assignments, which were a number of small assignments, low-stake assignments, critiques, participation, and discussion. There were a number of discussion groups, virtual tables where students were able to share work, and also the final project, which was the culmination of all the technical information that they learned throughout the semester. Overall, it seemed like a good way to deliver this class, to deliver the course content. The students really did seem to enjoy it. And even though we were working during a pandemic, we were able to compensate for it. Thanks for visiting.